Here we go. Off and running, ladies and gentlemen, right after the bell at 2 o'clock here on Main Street Sports Today, presented each and every single afternoon by our friends at the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. So excited to be with you guys. Wade Neely saying hello here, Calvin White there, and our producer making the magic happen back behind the scenes, the one and only Mark Rogers. This is going to be a Top 5 Tuesday edition of the program, and I, for one, Calvin, am pretty excited. Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you too. It's December 16th, and I'm already a little bit tired of it being 25 degrees when I wake up and 50 degrees by noon. We talked about it. Before we went live, we're both, fighting the snifflies a little bit. But unfortunately, it is that time of year. And I'm sure it will be 70 degrees next week sometime. But for now, we survive and prosper.
Yeah, I don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but, as cold as it's been and kind of as gross as it's been right now, yeah, we're streaking toward not a white Christmas, but 70 degrees on Christmas. It feels like it's going to just shift the complete other way. So maybe I'm wrong, but it kind of feels that that's how this thing traditionally goes. But thank you for battling with us, Calvin, today. And yes, finally kind of on the mend a little bit. I was a little depleted the last couple of nights and last couple of days, but excited to battle through it, kind of on the come up, or kind of on the cusp of turning that corner today. So looking forward to it. Speaking of looking forward to, man, we got a big show today, folks. We got a lot to talk about at pretty much every level, at pretty much every sport. We'll talk some Preds. We got some Grizzlies news. We're going to talk local college football. Yeah, some local teams are still playing, and I'm not just talking bowl games. Our good friend Kyle SCHWARTZ from the Ohio Valley Conference will join us. Always a treat when we can get Kyle on. We're friends of the OVC. We've obviously covered a lot of the activity with the FCS, Calvin in particular, throughout the course of this season. But we're going to get Kyle's take as the OVC/FCS. This is kind of one of their bigger weekends of the year. The semifinals of the playoff are upon us with that title game creeping ever so close, January 5th, over at Vanderbilt's football stadium here in Nashville. So we got Kyle coming on here in just a couple of moments. Calvin and I are going to dip into some college hoops talk as we close this opening hour. And then, because it's Tuesday, because it's Top 5 Tuesday, Chip Walters, our good friend, the Blue Raider voice, will stop by. Calvin, there are never, I don't care what time of the year it is, it's kind of like ball football in a sense, right? It feels like no matter what time of the year we brought Chip on, and no matter what has been going on campus, he's going to fill some time and spend some time with us. So I'm looking forward to seeing what is coming out of Murfreesboro, because Chip always brings the goods.
Yeah, Chip's always good to bring on and give us some insight into what's going on in Murfreesboro with the Blue Raiders. People are always really invested in Blue Raider football. Men's basketball is playing really well right now. Women's basketball has a big game, I think, tonight against Auburn. So, they've kind of taken their lumps early, but, they've picked up some good wins as well. So, always excited to talk to Chip later on in the show.
Chip will bring the goods, like I said. He always does. That comes your way right at the top of the 3 o'clock hour. And don't you worry, because we'll fill that time as Chip always does. We'll also get into the grab bag in the second hour. We got a lot of stuff in the grab bag here. College football talk in particular, not really even so much the games that are going on, but the players that are either coming, the players that are returning, the players that are going. And we got that at all kind of different levels, and a couple schools and a couple players in particular you're going to want to stay tuned for as we kind of break that down. We'll also talk about Monday Night Football, an odd game in terms of last night's result. More on that later. I'll elaborate. It'll be worth it. We will talk about Old Man Rivers. Can you believe it, Calvin? He's upright. He's standing, and Shane Steichen says, quote, "We didn't bring him here to sit. He's going to start, it sounds like, next week."
Yeah, he didn't look as bad as I think people thought he would this past week, but, he did throw a touchdown. But there was also a play I saw where he took about a 4 or 5 step drop and tripped over his own feet. And, unfortunately, somebody just had to go breathe on him to, down him for a 6 or 7 yard loss. But
I remember Phillip Rivers making those types of miscues and kind of follies, if you will, when he was in his prime. So that's kind of in line. Good to know that he's still got that comedic kind of part of his game to him, right?
Yeah, good to know that you know, that Philip Rivers is back.
He's
Philip Rivers looks like Philip Rivers. He's got the body of an offensive coordinator now, but for the foreseeable future, he is a 44-year-old NFL quarterback.
The 44-year-old QB is back. The grandpa is back, and it sounds like, again, yeah, he will start. We will break more down on Philip Rivers and what's ahead for him as they have a big game. They being obviously the Indianapolis Colts. And speaking of Phil Rivers, couldn't think of a better top five Tuesday topic. Uncle Rico has kind of been thrown around as well in terms of this situation here with Rivers. And that's kind of where my mind went, Calvin. The top five things that we bet we could still do when we're 40. When we're a little bit older, a little bit more advanced age. I am a lot closer to 40 than you. So our list, and our priorities might differ, but I'm visualizing throwing footballs over mountains when I came up with this topic here.
Yeah, fortunately, I've still got a little while until I hit 40. But there's things that I do now that I would like to think I'd still be able to do in 17 years once I hit 40. So that list took a little while to compile, but I imagine we'll have a couple of the same things when we get to that point.
There'll be some crossover for sure. And so maybe that's just me not coming to grips that, like I said, I'm a lot closer to that number than you are. But that's what we got going on the show today, folks. It's going to be fun. We're pretty pumped. Calvin is with us here. Mark is here. And yours truly, again, Wade Neely sitting in the saddle. So without further ado, now that we've kind of set the table for everybody today, let's do this thing off right. Let's bring you yesterday's results. Let's bring you tonight's schedule. Let's do all of that on a little thing we like to call the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Rundown is here, boys and girls, and it is girls basketball where we start things from last night. Here are your finals. Battle Creek picking up a 38-35 win over Marshall County. Cascade was a 51-47 winner over Murfreesboro Central Magnet. Cheatham County, I was on hand for this game, Calvin. Big win over East Robertson, 64-15 last night. Good win for the Lady Cubs there. Summertown, 76. Collinwood, 49. It was East Hickman, 66. Spring Hill, 37. Sycamore, in a low-scoring affair, defeats Fairview, 35-22. Good Pasture, 61. Friendship Christian, 32. It was Gallatin, 55. Hunters Lane, 12. Hampshire picking up a 20-point victory, 44-24 over Dixon Academy. Cane Ridge, 60. Kirkwood, 52 last night. Laverne slipping by Antioch, 35-25. McEwen all over Santa Fe last night, 64-30. Westmoreland with a nice victory, 49-42 over Portland. Sounds like a pretty good ball game there. Mount Juliet, 61. Rockvale, 49. As we come down the stretch here, Shelbyville defeats Siegel, 42-26. Valor Collegiate with a 65-16 win over Knowledge Academies. Watertown, in a low-scoring affair, defeating Livingston Academy. 36-28 was that final there. Creekwood, 48. Waverly, 28. And capping your girls' scores from last night, Oakland was a winner, 56-53 over Wilson Central.
In boys basketball action last night, Marshall County wins 60-53 over Battle Creek. It was Cascade, 72-40 over Murfreesboro Central Magnet. Summertown, 81-55 winners over Collinwood. Friendship Christian wins 66-64 over Good Pasture. Gallatin 78-57 winners over Hunters Lane. Antioch wins 36-32 over Laverne. It was Watertown 57, Livingston Academy 40. McEwen 47, Santa Fe 38. Westmoreland 51-50 winners over Portland. It was Rockvale 59, Mount Juliet 41. Shelbyville wins 88-64 over Siegel. Waverly downs Creekwood 64-55, and Wilson Central wins 61-53 over Oakland. Women's college basketball action: Vanderbilt wins 87-58 over South Florida. The Nashville Predators down the Blues 5-2 in the National Hockey League. In NBA action, the Memphis Grizzlies win 121-103 over the Los Angeles Clippers. And on Monday Night Football, the Pittsburgh Steelers win 28-15 over the Miami Dolphins.
More on all of those games throughout the course of the next couple hours here on Main Street Sports Today. Let's go to the schedule now for tonight. Double headers, all beginning at 6 o'clock unless we tell you otherwise. Franklin Classical is on the road tonight at Battle Creek. Lawrence County is visiting Columbia tonight. Eagleville on the road at Community. It'll be Moore County at Culleoka. Station Camp is taking a trip to Gallatin tonight. Fayetteville will be at Giles County. And I've been told that if you tune in to local Giles County radio, our good friend and Pulaski citizen compadre Scott Stewart will be on the broadcast tonight. So buckle up down there in the south end of our coverage area. Forest on the road tonight at Hampshire. Look for East Hickman on the road this evening at Houston County. Similar for Laverne, who's at Independence. Springfield is visiting Joe Burns. Summertown on the road tonight at Lewis County. Hendersonville will take the trip to Liberty Creek. Valor Collegiate will do the same at Merrill Hyde. Coming down the stretch here, Frank Hughes will be on the road tonight at Mount Pleasant. Lead Academy will visit Riverdale. Green Hill will be on the road at Rockvale. Smith County will host Beach tonight, and Spring Hill will welcome Cornersville to town tonight in that 6 p.m. doubleheader. Also, Lebanon will be on the road tonight at Stewart's Creek. White House Heritage is visiting White House. That should be a dandy. Throw out the record books there in that doubleheader. Big rivalry showdown. And Dixon Academy at Zion Christian caps our high school basketball doubleheaders this evening. We do feature one little old standalone game. Girls basketball action tonight. We'll see Knowledge Academies at KIPP Nashville. That gets underway at 6 p.m. More on this contest later as well, but women's college basketball this evening. Auburn will be at MTSU tonight. It'll be on ESPN Plus, and tip-off is set for 6:30. Men's basketball tonight. We were told about this game last week, so it didn't catch me quite by surprise. But Lipscomb, folks, yes, Lipscomb will be on the road this evening at Duke. That Duke at 5 p.m. on the ACC network. Best of luck to the Bisons there. Also tonight, big showdown in college hoops as Louisville will come to Knoxville to take on the Tennessee Vols. That one gets underway at 6. You can see it on ESPN and on ESPN Plus this evening. Also at 6 p.m., look for Belmont, who is at Evansville. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your schedule. Those were your scores from last night, and that concludes our Tuesday rundown. Top story, as always, presented each and every single afternoon by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly at Neely's Mill in Columbia, where they're open from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. So be sure and check them out for your delicious daily deli lunch options, where they offer hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Once again, Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill in Columbia, presenting our top story. A little double dose of a top story here tonight, Calvin, and we don't like to toot our own horn too much on this show, but Mo and I really got into both of these situations in depth yesterday. We talked about the Preds. We talked about the Grizz. We told you guys that both teams would be in action last night. And Calvin, you just gave them the scores during the rundown. The Preds getting a second straight victory. What they win Friday night versus the Blues, 7-2, I believe was the final. Last night, 5-2. It was 1-1 after the first, but the Preds blanked them 3-0 in the second period, and then really cruised down the stretch. And again, a 5-2 victory. Philip Forsberg had a hat trick in the game. Roman Josi, who's, been dealing with some injuries and battling all year, he had 2 assists in that game. I know it's the Blues, Calvin, and that was the point that Mo and I made on the show yesterday was you got to take it with a little grain of salt, but hey, beggars can't really be choosers, and the Preds will savor the flavor of every single win they get. So that was a good one yet again last night.
Yeah, especially with the way they started this season. Going into the year, I think the number one thing that everybody said about the Preds was that they just had to get off to a good start. They started, I think, 0-5 or 0-6 last year and just kind of never really recovered. But so far this year, they've been able to, overcome that slow start a little bit and, get back to hanging out around 500. Now I think the big thing with them is if they can just find ways to replicate it and find some consistency.
Absolutely. And, again, said it a lot this show, and I said it verbatim yesterday. I want to see a little more before I fully buy in. I think Mo has already bought in. He was even tweeting about the game last night. So, if he's watching the games and he's tweeting about it, he's dipping his toe in. That moves them to 13, 15, and 4. They also improved to 5, 7, and 2 on the road. And again, the Blues aren't great, but the Preds have been maybe less than not great, if that's possible. So now they're trying to crawl out and maybe make some things happen. I'm scared to do this, but I'm going to do it. I'm a little bit of a glutton for punishment, Calvin. But moneypuck.com is where I love to live, and they kind of break down all the playoff odds. and I'm scrolling and I'm scrolling. The Preds for so long have been toward the bottom of this chart here. But hey, as fate would have it, the Blues are the worst team in the NHL, and the Preds' playoff percentages have climbed. They were, in the microscopic realm just a couple of weeks ago, but now up to 10%. And if you just keep stacking wins, your goal is to not try and maybe qualify for the playoffs right here and right now, but just continue to produce consistent hockey, and the rest will kind of take care of itself, it feels like.
Yeah, if they can just find ways to replicate it, especially the way that they've been playing over the last couple of weeks. They've beat some of the best teams, in the league. They beat the Panthers, the
Yeah.
two-time defending Stanley Cup champion. They beat some really good teams. Now, if they can just find ways to replicate it, because I don't know what the difference was in the start of the year and what's kind of been contributing to this little mini turnaround, but if they can just find ways to replicate what they've been doing, no matter what it is, they should be, at least have a little bit of a shot to make a run toward the end of the regular season, maybe get back into the playoffs.
That's my thing, right? I just want to see a remotely competitive team that I can enjoy and just kind of get behind a little bit. You don't have to make the playoffs, but I just want to have some shred of relevancy about this team, and they're venturing in that direction. So, good news for Preds fans. Also, if you're looking to catch them in action at home, you're in luck because 3 games this week. Tomorrow night, taking on the Hurricanes at 7. They got the Toronto Maple Leafs coming to town on Saturday, and then the Rangers will come visit Bridgestone Arena on Sunday. So 3 straight at home for these Nashville Predators. Meanwhile, we also told you about the Grizzlies and their big win last night versus the Clippers. Kind of the same script, right? The Clippers are really, really bad, but the Grizz hadn't necessarily been great, so you'll take the wins where you can get them. That all sounds fantastic, Calvin. But for some reason, up 20 points. I've seen this script a million times, and we just talked with Greg Gaston of Sports 56 WHBQ yesterday about the availability and the injury concerns of their star player, Ja Morant. I mean, it was like a car crash. It has played out a million times in my brain since I saw it last night. He leaves with an ankle injury, looked really, really bad, and right back into the mud are the Grizzlies here. Got the win, which is obviously great, but may have lost a big, big piece. Still no word yet on how long Mr. Morant will be out.
Yeah, the Grizzlies have been playing really well. They'd won like 8 of the last 11, I think, or something like that. And unfortunately for them, John Morant and Jaren Jackson have both been, fighting the injury bug over the last couple of years. I think kind of the bright spot for the Grizzlies is, Zach Edey's been playing really well. But obviously John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. are the star power of your team. They're the guys that make it go, and especially for Morant, he's kind of been fighting the injury bug and not been able to be on the court as much as they would like him to over the last couple of years. And it kind of makes you feel at times that the Grizzlies kind of missed out on their window, not necessarily to win a championship, but when a couple of years ago when the Grizzlies got really good for the first time since those mid 2010s grind city teams, with Zach Randolph and the boys, it really felt like that was the first time since then that the Grizzlies had a legitimate shot to at least make some noise in the Western Conference playoffs.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. And I mean, if you're looking, and I'm the eternal optimist, I guess, on this show here, but if you're looking for a shred of optimism, they've had so many injuries, have the Grizzlies over the years, Calvin, that these other guys have developed into diamonds in the rough and basically had no other choice but to develop. And one of those in particular, and again, shout out to Greg, who was on the show with us yesterday. We talked at length about these backup guys, in particular Cam Spencer, who is shooting the cover off the ball. Had another big game last night, continuing to play well. So kind of more of the same, unfortunately. Relying on some guys who can carry the load, but I don't know how far they really can carry it. So we'll have an update as soon as we can get one on the status of Ja Morant. But yeah, left the game late, up 20, and I groaned when I saw the reaction to the play last night. Tough scene there, but thoughts and prayers over to our folks in Memphis. We're going to take a quick time out, folks, as we have hit the 2:20 mark here. You know what that means. Our first guest will join us on the other side of this timeout. And it's not just any guest. It's our good friend Kyle SCHWARTZ from the Ohio Valley Conference. You are not going to want to miss a sit down with one of our very favorites as we talk FCS playoffs. But we also sprinkle in some OVC hoops. So buckle up, folks, and come back with us on the other side of this timeout. You're watching Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia.
Got closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need...
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
3-3.
Bee, oh, busy bee. Guys, not yet, not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now
busy
I'm ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Off and running, boys and girls, here on Main Street Sports Today, presented each and every single afternoon by our friends at the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Wade Neely saying hello alongside Calvin White, and our producer, Mark Rogers, is the one making the magic happen behind the scenes. Touched on it a moment ago, but the FCS playoffs have been heating up, Calvin, and couldn't think of really any better guest than our good friend Kyle SCHWARTZ from the Ohio Valley Conference to kind of come in and wade into the waters here as first of all, Kyle, good afternoon. Second of all, man, we're less than 3 weeks away from this thing culminating right here in downtown Nashville.
Yeah, back-to-back years. The FCS championship game will be here at First Bank Stadium, and first time going through here in Nashville. It's been in Chattanooga back in the early 2000s, so we're excited to have it here. It's been quite the fascinating playoffs. If people haven't been following it, I think people probably know North Dakota State's been the dominant FCS team, and they lost their first game in the playoffs. So everybody thought they were going to maybe bring all their Bison's fans down here to Nashville, but didn't even make it out of the first round. So that's why they play the games, right?
Absolutely. And, trying good luck making a bracket, for those every year, because it seems like there's unseeded teams that make these deep runs, and more on one of those in a little bit, I suppose. Kyle, real quick, though, we've had you on before, and we've talked with Scott Ramsey, our good friend from the Sports Council here in Nashville. This was kind of a pie in the sky. It was a target that we really couldn't touch so long ago. And now we're sitting here, the semifinals are this weekend. We'll find our finalists after Saturday's results. What's kind of been your role, and kind of what's been kind of all systems go for you guys down the stretch here to put this thing together in short order?
Yeah, I think with Scott, this is something he's always wanted to do since I've known him here, and our former commissioner John Steinbrecher, who was here when I was first hired. They wanted to have this game here, and it went to Frisco, Texas, for 15 years. So when there was a chance, Frisco, great host, construction to their stadium, they couldn't host it, so jumped right in there. So really, you got to. It starts with the Sports Council and Scott's vision and the hard work they put behind the scenes on all the logistical things people don't think of. So. That's what we're working on. I've been on 2 calls today. I know there's a call going on right now that I'm not even a part of that they're planning. And then the people at Vanderbilt, it's their stadium and what a beautiful stadium it is and the work they've done. They're doing the game day operation stuff. So you can't have, a game without that too. So a great partnership, and we're here to support that partnership here. And I'm doing a lot of stuff with the media and game day media coordination. So we're just looking forward to whether the winner of Montana State and Illinois State, Villanova, whichever those 2 teams are, we're looking forward to them to be here.
Meet on January 5th over on the west side of town, again on the campus of Vanderbilt, and at First Bank Stadium. We'll be rocking that night at 7:30. Kyle, one last quick one I want to ask is, as far as, nobody throws a party like Nashville, and there's always kind of an event first, and then there's the event leading up to the event. And I'm curious, what other deets, what other goodies can maybe you share with us in terms of other festivities that are going on in the run up and build up to this thing?
And I think it's two-sided. That's a great question. Part of it is we want to give these student athletes a great experience. So they're going to do some things, nobody's going to see beforehand when they get to town, some team dinners. They're both staying out at the Opryland. So there's going to be some things there to just really make sure they have a Nashville experience. For fans coming, whether it's from those schools I just mentioned, or if it's local, Middle Tennessee fans who want to come, I think the tailgating aspect is going to be something that they really wanted to take up from what's done in Frisco, just using some of those lots and areas over by Vanderbilt. So if you're a fan of one of those teams or not, come and see that. There's a pregame concert. They're going to be outside the gates, the team and van walk. So just sort of some of that. And then, not to give away any surprises or anything, but some game day in-game, stuff that, maybe Vanderbilt did a couple of things this year with some drones that if fans go to a game, they'll see here. But all that kind of stuff, just kind of, taking it up a notch over what maybe other FCS games have. We hope it's going to be a really good atmosphere on January 5th.
No surprises, Kyle. I mean, I thought we were friends, right? I mean, couldn't give us anything, but.
Well, if I say it and then it does, and something falls through, I don't want to lie to people. But it'll be a great game day atmosphere. And the NCAA, their production team and their in-game crew, they've worked hard on this all year. And it's one of the top ESPN crews will be doing the game, and they're working on hopefully a live show before the FCS, before the game kicks off too. On one of the ESPN networks, just to help promote this great subdivision, which has great football, obviously.
And, Kyle Wade kind of teased it there a little bit, but, Illinois State has kind of been, the Cinderella, you could kind of call it, of the playoffs. But, the only unranked team in the Final Four, were they a team that, kind of nobody expected to do this, or were they somebody that, people always had in the back of their mind that they could make this type of run?
Could it be both? Maybe I think they play the Missouri Valley. I always want to promote the OVC, but we'll give our props. The Missouri Valley Football Conference is the top ranked conference usually in the FCS, and they played a tough schedule. They played one of our teams, Eastern Illinois, earlier in the season, and played really well. I think when people saw they were playing North Dakota State, they're like, well, they probably just don't have a chance. But I think they're tested. So once you kind of win one game, then now the target's really been on their back. And, I think Normal, Illinois, that Bloomington area is only about 5 hours from here. So if they be one of the teams, we think and hope they're going to bring a lot of fans down to Nashville for the title game.
Kyle, we're talking about Kyle Schwartz, our good friend from the Ohio Valley Conference, as the FCS playoffs are in the semifinals, and then the championship obviously will be held on Vanderbilt's campus on Monday, January the 5th. Kyle, I got to ask you too. I don't know about you, but when you just say Montana and Montana State, and Mo and I talked about it, when the regular season meeting happened, the Brawl of the Wild, which is one of the all-time nicknames to begin with, kind of paint the picture of what fans can expect, and just as we head into this rematch with the winner going to the championship.
Yeah, I made some notes here because I don't want to mess up. And that's Saturday at 3 p.m. Central on ABC. So everybody's going to be able to see that game. I believe the teams, including that meeting in November, they played 124 times all time, but they've never played in the playoffs. So Think about that rivalry, how how much it means to the people of Montana, and they've never played in the playoffs. And this will be not only just a game to go to the national championship game. So Montana State's won 7 of the last 9, which I didn't know until I just looked it up, including back in November. I think, Montana has 2 all-time titles, 95 and 2001. And I think back then, maybe they were considered the better of the 2 programs, had a little bit more national success. But Montana State, as I said, they've had more success in this rivalry. Recently, they won 1984 national championship, and they were in the championship game last year and lost to North Dakota State. So a lot of history between these 2 teams. And, it's like if Vanderbilt and Tennessee played in the CFP, right? Or I went to school in Kentucky. If Kentucky and Louisville played in the Final Four, it's a great when you can play your rival with a lot on the line. I think it's really going to amp up that atmosphere.
I'm saying that, you're saying that, but to kind of just add some extra context, I did a poll here. This is from SeatGeek, and I don't know what the capacities. Close to 22,000 can fit in at Bobcat Stadium out there in Bozeman. The cheapest ticket to get in right now is $650.
Wow!
So sign me up for that. I've gone on Bluesky as pointing this out. I think that may be the best game. Not knocking, Illinois State and Villanova, which is a story in its own right. But regardless of all of the football games this week, and I'm including the big boy playoff games, that to me is the one that's going to be most captivating. And you said it's on ABC.
And, in Montana, there's no professional sports teams, right? So this is the professional sports. And everybody's going to be locked in that lives in that state. And then we hope, let's say they're 50-50 split of fans. We hope those 50% that win when they come down here. But it should just be a fantastic atmosphere.
And Kyle, looking at Villanova, Illinois State's opponent in this semifinals, Villanova had a really big win in the first round, and then they won 2 one-score games the next 2 games. What have they kind of done to, not necessarily blow people out, but just, win tight games when they need to in the postseason?
And they've been ranked. That's a good question. They've been ranked all year. I think they've probably been more under the radar than maybe Illinois State, just because a smaller school, private school. If you're a general fan, you probably think, basketball and Big East, and that you don't think about them playing football at a high level, but they obviously do. I just think they've played their own game, and they've controlled the clock, and they've scored when they need to. And I think they've been tested the entire playoffs, as you just mentioned. So I don't have as good a read, and just in my casual fandom of watching those teams of what that game will be like. But whichever team's able to give maybe their will a little bit more on the offensive end, I think maybe come out on top in that game.
To speak to the kind of chaos, Kyle, that we've had thus far, Villanova, I don't know in any world, probably thought they would have a chance to maybe host a semifinal. And when the results, were going down, I know they were scoreboard watching as Illinois State ends up outlasting UC Davis. That's the other beauty of this too, is the semis are obviously played on on campus sites before you get to Nashville for the championship.
And I think it's important for the teams. They earn it. They earn the right to get those national seeds, and it creates the atmosphere. I think if you're at neutral sites for the semifinals at the FCS level, probably wouldn't be quite as good. So you earn the right to have those fans cheer, and a lot of cold weather involved this weekend. In Montana, there'll be some cold weather. Villanova, some cold weather, but that's part of that beauty. And then they get a short break. Obviously, it's right before the Christmas holiday, so. I know part of their plans, they'll have like a team of administrators come down, check out everything, and then right after the new year, they'll get here to Nashville so they can start their preparations and their practices.
Talking with Kyle Schwartz, our good friend from the Ohio Valley Conference, Associate Commissioner at the OVC. Kyle, let's step further into your wheelhouse, though. And this was, we'll go in a couple different directions, but Mo and I talked at length yesterday about TSU going on the road. It was played at a different gymnasium than UNLV, which is kind of odd, but still on the road, right, for TSU. Going on the road as nearly a 20-point underdog and getting the outright win. Seems like the OVC continues year in, year out. They are capable of springing some big upsets.
OVC team's now 2-0 against UNLV this year. UT Martin beat them in the opening game, too. I don't think they're going to schedule any more OVC teams in the coming, but that's a note I just made myself. Nolan Smith's done a great job there. When you go into a season, new coach, mainly new roster. They had 3 pretty good returning players, but in this transfer portal era, you don't really know what people's got have. Big win to go out there. Yeah, they played in Henderson, Nevada, so it was a tournament. There were 4 games or a one-day event. There were 4 other games that day, and Tennessee State took it to them. And if you looked at the box score, they didn't have any OVC players this week. It was like 3 people that all had 10 or 12 points. So it was a total team effort. TSU is one of the top turnover forcing teams in the country and rank up there in steals. So they have done a great job on the defensive end. They won at Chattanooga earlier this year. So they have been very nice under Nolan Smith in year 1.
And Kyle, you mentioned UT Martin. UT Martin, I believe, is sitting at 8-3 right now. Was competitive with Florida State early in the year. Just what have you seen out of UT Martin? Just for them to be as competitive as they have been so far.
Yes, second-year coach Jeremy Schulman, who's from Nashville, so he definitely loves being back in the state of Tennessee. Super successful in the JUCO ranks, and he has a bunch of international players, like double digits. A couple holdovers from last year. But man, he is one of the most positive people I have ever met. And that really shows in his team. They don't have like 1 or 2 20-point per game scores. Mm-hmm. They got people who are going to get you like 16 and 8, maybe 12 and 8 or whatever. They have just played really good team basketball. They got a freshman who's been our freshman of the week 5 of the 6 weeks so far this season. And then a returner. And I'm not going to say their names because I'm going to butcher them. I don't know because but just solid. And they played a good schedule, a mix of, a couple non-D1s at home, but the UNLV win and went on the road and won at Bradley. So key victories are going to help them as we get into OVC play, which, the first full week of OVC play starts this week.
And Kyle, you mentioned we were talking to UT Martin, and I'm glad you said UNLV. I knew they had a big win, and UNLV is not scheduling folks from the OVC anytime soon. Kyle, I do want to ask you this though. We're talking about those 2 teams in particular with Martin, and then obviously the big win for TSU. But once you get into league play, there's no guarantees. We see it year in, year out. Just because you have these high-profile non-con wins, the league is still as competitive as ever, really from top to bottom, seemingly.
We've had 1 conference game so far to sort of work in the scheduling. Lindenwood won that game. Them and Southern Indiana joined us. This is their 4th season. They're all full division. They reclassified from Division II. They're all fully eligible. They can play in the NCAA tournament this year. They're really good. SIUE, they won our men's tournament last year, and they ended up playing Houston in the NCAA tournament. They lost their best 2 players maybe, but they've been really good in the non-conference too. So I think we got 4 or 5 teams right now who are good. But as you referenced, Wade, once we get in these conference plays and we play a double round robin, so 20-game conference schedule, and that really tests you over 2.25 months. So we're going to learn who the best team is, and it may not be one of those 5 teams I just mentioned.
We've been talking a little bit about men's college basketball. I haven't kept up, at least me personally, with the women's ranks. Share some successes on that front from us, if you will.
Well, Tennessee Tech, for those in the middle of Tennessee, they won our tournament in regular season last year. They're 7-2 right now. So Kim Roseman, a great job there. It's just expected. It's not a surprise. They're good. And they held over a lot of their players from last year. Western Illinois is probably a team to watch. They're 8-1. They have maybe arguably the best player in the league in Reagan McCown, who's averaged, roughly, 15 to 20 points a game in her first 2 years in college. And then, but Southern Indiana, Lindenwood, and SIUE, all 7 wins or more right now after non-conference play. So on the women's side, you don't see them playing quite as many non-Division I teams. A little easier maybe for them to get some games, and you'll see Power 4 teams play games at so-called mid-major teams. So we've actually had a lot of success, and probably in the net rankings or whatever, our women's teams are probably a little more highly rated than our men's teams right now.
And Kyle, just to hit on Tennessee Tech men as well. 5-6 right now, but they played some really good teams. They played University of Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Belmont. Even though they're 5-6 right now, what do you think that team looks like once you get into league play?
And they're one of those teams that have a lot of newcomers too. That in the preseason, I'm like, I don't know if you're going to be good. At our media day event, talking to the coaches, like, are you going to be good? And they're like, I don't know either. So if the coaches don't know, how am I supposed to know? I do think they're solid. They won a couple road games. That's probably a good test right now. If you can go beat a fellow mid-major team on the road, then maybe you are pretty decent. So Coach Pelfrey's been there for a while now at Tennessee Tech. So I think they're going to be solid once they once they get into conference play too. And you reference some of the bigger teams, like when you have to go play some of those money games, you're going to take your bumps and to get a check. But then at the same time, that's really going to help you prepare when you're playing a team that's maybe not so good during conference play.
Kyle Schwartz, Associate Commissioner of the Ohio Valley Conference, is our guest. And we've covered a lot of ground already, folks, talking FCS playoffs, talking the FCS championship that will be at First Bank Stadium on the campus of Vanderbilt in early January. Just got done talking some OVC hoops. Kyle, I thought of you the other day. It was a Friday night here in Nashville, and I ended up in a place I don't normally end up, but I ended up on Broadway. And I kind of quickly made some assumptions because I saw a lot of Kentucky fans, and I saw a lot of Kentucky fans that did not look happy. And then I said, oh, yeah, they're playing at Bridgestone tonight. Let me check and see how bad the damage was. Have you recovered, and how much did the win over Indiana kind of smooth over what was a really, really frustrating night versus Gonzaga here in town?
Yeah, I referenced that earlier. That's where I went to school, so I'm a big-time fan. That was not the best performance Kentucky's ever had, but Gonzaga is one of the best teams in the country. But you probably shouldn't lose by 40 to anybody when you have a lot of NIL money to pay your roster. So the win over Indiana helped. It's a long season, but they had Gonzaga, Kentucky, and then Illinois, Tennessee. That was quite the back-to-back nights at Bridgestone Arena to bring high-level college basketball to town. So I'm hoping for better games ahead for the Big Blue from this point forward.
The panic meter has calmed down a little bit, but hey, I'm going to throw you on the spot though, since you mentioned it. We talked about it earlier in this show. Tennessee and Louisville tangle tonight. Who are you rooting for? Is there somebody can you root for either one of those teams in your mind?
That's a tough question. Kentucky already lost to Louisville, so that they win it helps. They got to play Tennessee twice though, so I'll go Tennessee on that one.
Okay.
If somehow they can both lose, we won't complain.
When it's Duke and Louisville, it's a little harder to choose. So that's the one I just can't pick.
Hey, I'm glad you said that. There's no bigger Lipscomb fan in the world than yours truly tonight. Would love to see them take down the Dukies over there at home. But Kyle, good stuff as always, and we certainly appreciate you taking some time to not only set the stage for what's to come at the FCS Championship, but also give us the goods on OVC hoops. Thank you as always.
Just appreciate it. Fans look for information. NCAA.com/FCS has everything they need to know about the title game on January 5th. So,
good point. Tickets still available.
Tickets still available.
Can be purchased there.
Then everything there. Ticket link right there for fans.
Good stuff, Kyle. Thank you as always. We'll
Thanks,
see you
guys.
soon, brother.
Appreciate you.
Kyle Schwartz from the Ohio Valley Conference talking a lot of football, and I'm not even joking when I said that earlier, Calvin. Montana State. I'm not going to come off of $650 and a plane ride to go across country. But if I were in, the vicinity, I could maybe be compelled. That, to me, is going to be epic. And I'm glad that it's going to be on ABC as well, because if it's anything like we've seen from that rivalry historically, meeting in the play, that's like Michigan and Ohio State, right? Meeting in the national semifinals practically.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that, you throw the records out the windows. And it's good that it's getting the spotlight it deserves on national TV, especially at this point in the semifinals of the FCS playoffs. So hopefully the final score is indicative of the close game that, everyone expects it to be, especially on that stage.
And I the other side, I'm so excited for that one. I don't want to discredit Illinois State and Villanova. Villanova's an epic story, obviously, but Illinois State is certainly worthy of that. And I can't remember the exact number, but in that win that Kyle referenced, that big upset that Illinois State pulled just a couple of rounds ago, they had like 4 or 5 turnovers. They turned the ball over 4 or 5 times and still somehow pulled out the victory. So a team that wins a game like that, there's something about them. So I got my eye on you, Illinois State, even though you're unranked heading into it. Should be fun, and I know those fan bases are going to be excited, and I know our friends at the OVC and the Nashville Sports Council are hoping for some good games this weekend and a big buzz heading into the championship again on January 5th. Quick timeout, folks. Good stuff from Kyle Schwartz as always. When Calvin and I return, we'll talk a little more about the realm of college hoops. We'll dive into that Lipscomb game. We'll dive into that Tennessee game tonight, taking on Louisville. We'll tell you about a few other games that you're going to want to keep your eyes on as we swing it around the horn here. Come on back, folks. Final segment here in the opening hour of Main Street Sports Today comes your way right after this.
Columbia Power and Water Systems is dedicated to bringing our customers reliable, local service. Whether you're turning on a light switch, your faucet, or streaming on TV, our dedicated team members from here in Murray County work every day to keep you on. If you need us, call us 931-388-4833 or visit cpws.com. CPWS, local service, local support.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Nashville's Nutcracker, presented by Nashville Ballet, returns to TPAC November 29th through December 28th. This holiday season, audiences will journey with Clara and the Nutcracker Prince through Nashville's history and the land of sweets. Tickets on sale at NashvilleBallet.com.
Moving and grooving here on Main Street Sports Today, presented each and every single afternoon by our friends at the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Wade Neely saying hello alongside my main man Calvin White and our producer Mark Rogers. College hoops, college hoops, college hoops. Calvin, this is, a lot, or the vast majority of football. We still got some big time college football. We got some FCS football, and we've got the NFL kind of dangling. But it's really hard. I mentioned it last time you and I were together. It's really hard for me to click into basketball mode until most of that is done. We've reached that point. And luckily, as fate would have it, we're kind of treated to some big-time matchups. We kind of teased it during the rundown, but several area schools, region schools, I guess, if you will, with some big-time contests this evening. None bigger than Tennessee and Louisville, which we'll talk about here more in depth in just a second, but that gets you underway at 6 p.m. on ESPN. We told you about Belmont, who's going to be on the road at Evansville. And Evansville's record doesn't look that great upon first glance, but be very careful of going up to Evansville. Lesser teams have been stumbled and humbled up there, so be careful. That one's at 6 on ESPN+. And then the game that I'm just fascinated by ever since Joe brought it to my attention last week, Lipscomb at Duke. I'm imagining there's a paycheck involved, a buy game, if you will. I know Lipscomb went to the tournament last year and had a fantastic season, but going up against one of the greatest programs in college basketball history, that'll be underway at 5 p.m. on ACC Network. So if you got the ACC Network, you can tune in and see the very own bunch from right there in South Nashville. Lipscomb at Duke tonight, Calvin. Does that do anything? Does that tickle your fancy this evening?
Probably just to see what monster numbers Cameron Boozer puts up. But you mentioned the bye game. I'm sure there's a lot less tougher places to play. You could have taken your team for some money than Cameron Indoor Stadium, especially against one of the best teams in the country who just went on the road and beat Michigan State last week. But yeah, I'd expect a monster night from Cameron Boozer. Lipscomb struggled early, but it's been playing well recently, but obviously have not played a team to the caliber of Duke yet. So we'll there will be a score at the end of that one. We know that much.
I'm a big KenPom guy, and this will shock you, I know, does not give Lipscomb much of a chance, but he does give him a 1% chance. They're saying there's a chance. 86-62 is his projected score there. And, I love that. I don't know how much money and some loose internet research, couldn't find that. I don't know how big the check is, but you'd imagine with Duke, hey, they got the bucks, come off some money. I'm picturing a young man working out in the weight room in Lipscomb 2-3 years from now, and coach looking at him saying, "You better go a little harder because we took a 60-point loss at Duke to help pay for these machines, right?" So there is that component at play tonight. I probably won't be tuning in except at the beginning, maybe just to say that I caught a little bit. But if I get a text or if I get a scoreboard update late in the game and it's close, you bet your bottom dollar I'll be tuned in. Best of luck to the Bisons tonight, as again, they got to go hostile environment to say the least.
Yeah, that'd be the upset of the country. So far this season, if Lipscomb's even able to, just hang in there with Duke. I don't see Lipscomb putting 62 points up on Duke, even though that's relatively a low number in the grand scheme of things. But that is Duke, and that is Cameron Boozer, who's probably going to be a top 5 pick in the draft. And you're Lipscomb with a first-year head coach and an entirely new roster. So I take good luck. Hopefully you don't take too much of a lump. Put it behind you after tonight and get ready for conference play.
Absolutely. And, we're kind of tongue-in-cheek here, but there is also something to be said, Calvin, for usually we see these earlier in the season. Props for scheduling it kind of right before you get into, the tougher part of your schedule with conference play. New roster, new coaching staff, like you mentioned. But this is one of those games tonight that, just hope everybody, get some minutes, hopefully take something. If you can come away with one thing about your team maybe tonight, you'll chalk that up as a victory. And again, props to Lipscomb and Coach Kevin Carroll for scheduling the Blue Devils there. So that's kind of one end of the spectrum in terms of competitiveness tonight. We imagine, I would think, Calvin, right, a much more competitive showdown tonight. But this also feels like I don't know, I'm just going to ask you, is this a must-win? How badly does Tennessee need to win this game tonight at home versus Louisville in your mind?
It feels like it's a must-win just to, see the ball go through the hoop. We talked about it last week. When was the last time Tennessee lost three in a row? Tennessee's in the middle of a 3-game skid right now, and Louisville's been playing some really good basketball. And obviously the Tennessee's got the home court advantage tonight, Thompson Bowling, but both really good teams that I think a lot of people would expect to be really good by the time postseason play rolls around. But right now Rick Barnes and the VOLS are sitting there at 7-3, and you've got a chance to lose your 4th game in your first 11 tonight if you drop one of the cards. But Louisville's a really good team. I don't know if anybody has any players hurt necessarily for tonight, but as long as everybody's healthy, obviously Cade Phillips is out for the year for Tennessee, but as long as everybody's healthy, I'd imagine should be at least a pretty good game.
You would think, right? And both KenPom and Vegas kind of agree. KenPom's got it at a 1-point game with Tennessee winning 80-79, and Vegas has this game as a 2.5-point betting spread, so favoring the Vols, that is. So Tennessee getting the nod playing at home, you would imagine, but man, yeah. When we asked Ben McKee when the last time, that they had dropped 3 straight and he didn't have a real good or real quick answer, that kind of told me all I needed to know. Our good friend at Go Vols 24/7. If he didn't know off the top, it's been a while. So hopefully they can take care of business. That will be your premier game tonight. No matter which way you slice it or dice it, it should be fun. We mentioned Belmont on the road at Evansville. I'm going to be oddly intrigued. I won't probably catch any of that game tonight. But the next time I talk to Joe Sullivan, I'm going to ask him because I know he'll be dialed in. And, Belmont's been playing so well, but I don't know. Something's just weird up there in Evansville. And they got a losing record right now. But I would, if I wake up tomorrow, Calvin, and I hear that they have upset Belmont, I would not be shocked.
No. You said it. Belmont's been playing really well this year. Evansville's always one of those teams that, whether they're good or bad, they always feel like they've got the potential to go in and upset somebody. They went in and upset Kentucky a couple years ago. But I would expect Belmont to win it. But like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if we wake up tomorrow and we see that Evansville won the game.
Absolutely. And while we're swinging it kind of locally here, we'll talk with Chip coming up in just a matter of moments. And I guarantee you we'll get all the ins and outs on the Blue Raiders and the Lady Raiders. But Kevin, while I got you, I was texting an old colleague of mine from UT Southern days, now at Austin Peay, back in his old stomping grounds there, assistant coach Dugan Line. We were going back and forth, and I failed to kind of keep tabs on the Govs thus far. And they're one of them teams that they just sneak up on you, and it feels like if you're not paying attention, every 2 or 3 years you're sitting there on Selection Sunday, and Austin Peay's right in the mix, to win the A-Sun or whatever league they're in at that particular time. And so, being right there in Clarksville, I'm curious, what have you seen, or what's the read on the Govs, because their schedule has been littered with tough opponents, so there are some losses, but we know they're tough on a year-to-year basis under head coach Corey Gibson.
Yeah, they're 5-5 right now. They've kind of been, a little bit up and down. They picked up a big win over Air Force, and I what you could call, I guess, their first game of the year. They opened the season up with Bryan. Beat them boys by about 70. But beat Air Force by 20, and then they took a 14-point loss on the road at Wyoming. They beat UNC Greensboro by 6 and then went down to Oxford and only lost by 7 to Ole Miss. But then, came right back and took a 9-point loss to Tulsa, beat Northern Illinois by a good bunch. Another double-digit loss to Kent State. But on Friday, they got a really good win. They got a 1-point win over ETSU at home. Zaire Collins, the freshman point guard, he had 25 points, 9 assists. Get the Govs back to 500 at home. And so, they've had their flashes. When they're good, they look like a good basketball team. But they've got a really good test coming up this Sunday. They go to Kansas City to play Kansas City University. Then, they've got Fisk at home. And then they start conference play with North Florida on the 1st. So, here's what I found. The league is always tough. So when they get into A-Sun play, this will be their last year playing basketball in the A-Sun before they move over to the United Athletic Conference next year. So, 2 seasons ago, they were a couple points away from, going to the NCAA tournament. They fell to Stetson in the first round. In the A-Sun championship game.
Mm-hmm.
Stetson ended up losing in the first round of the NCAA tournament to that UConn team that just went on to boat race everybody to their first of 2 straight championships. But Austin Peay looks really good when they're good this year. But the league will be tough like it always is. So it'll be interesting to watch the Govs through the rest of the year as they get into conference play.
Yeah, I'm excited to kind of keep tabs on them as they get into league play. Man, so many of these mid-major conferences are just wars of attrition, and just staying healthy is a huge component, and then just finding the right gel, finding the right balance is so much of it, because there's so many good teams. And A-Sun is no different year in, year out, whether it's Austin Peay or whether it's North Florida. We've seen, obviously, some other really good schools like a Stetson that can do some damage. So crazy stuff, and we will keep tabs on Austin Peay. We want to shout them out because we hadn't got a chance to mention them. At least Calvin and I hadn't got a chance to talk about them a ton in depth. But challenging schedule, going to be a challenging conference schedule, but they got the goods thus far to hopefully grind it out and hopefully make a run down the stretch. That brings us to the top of the hour, boys and girls. Means it's time for a quick timeout, but don't you worry, because when we come back, right around this time, each and every single Tuesday, we catch up with our good friend. We'll talk more college basketball. We'll talk a lot of stuff, trust me, as we always do with our good friend. The one and only Chip Walters is on the other side of this break, folks. You're listening and watching Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Is your internet slowing you down? It's time for an upgrade. Whether you're at home, working from your home office, or at your business, it's time to unleash the speed you need with speeds up to 1 gig at CPWS for as low as $70 a month. Give us a call, 931-375-7777. Local service, local support, CPWS.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Welcome back, gang. Time for hour number 2 on this good-looking Top 5 Tuesday of Main Street Sports Today, presented each and every single afternoon by our friends at the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Coming up at the end of the show, in honor of the one and only Phil Rivers, Calvin and I are going to give you our top 5 things we bet we could still do at the age of 40. And I preface that by saying I'm a lot closer to that number than Calvin is. But we'll go Uncle Rico at the end of the show today, and it should be fun. It's always fun, though, when we can bring in our good friend, our compadre, our companion, our inhabitant of the Murphy Center. It's the one and only Chip Walters. Good afternoon, Chip.
How you doing, guys?
We're doing great. And first of all, props for coming to us remote, it looks, or at least remote-ish than your usual domicile.
It is remote, and there's the men's basketball team is out here practicing. You see some folks from MTTV going by. They're getting ready for the women's game tonight, so they'll have that on ESPN Plus tonight. The Lady Raiders taking on Auburn. And I did have a question for you. Is the Neely's Mill Shopping Center named after you?
To the best of my knowledge, no. The same way that Neely's Bend here in Nashville, to the best of my knowledge, or Jess Neely for that matter, over on Vanderbilt side. You know, I don't think.
I would say Neely's Bend has a much better chance of being named after Jess Neely or someone in his family.
You would think, but you know, if I get in a pickle, it doesn't hurt to maybe at least bluff, right?
Throw that out there whenever you can.
Throw it out and see what happens. Chip Walters, the Blue Raider voice, joining us here. Chip, right out of the gate, I want to ask you, since you just mentioned, what extra stuff kind of goes into a game that is going to be of this caliber from just an operations standpoint, if anything, tonight when you guys take on Auburn?
Really, it's really not. No, it's just another regular season game. But you know what you see. I mean, you see a lot of folks walking around, and the basketball team is the men's basketball team is being hidden by my big noggin right now, but they're behind me. I promise you can hear them. But I mean, every home game you've got game, the marketing department has all of whatever they're going to do in game, all of that kind of thing. Part of Conference USA's broadcast package is that any game that is any football, men's, women's basketball, and then there's certain numbers of baseball, soccer, softball, volleyball games that every school must do on ESPN Plus if it's not on one of the bigger ESPNs or cable or CBS or whatever it might be. So we are in a fortunate position, as you both well know. We have the outstanding Scott Borchetta College of Media and Entertainment, and a terrific production truck, and a lot of talented students who get to showcase their talents, whether it's in front of the camera or in a role behind the camera or in the truck, wherever it may be. And we also have a new control room here, building. And I can't tell you for sure whether tonight I would, because of certain people I've seen walking around. My guess is they're using the truck tonight, but can't tell you that for sure. But yeah, every home game is produced on ESPN Plus or better. So that's all part of it. Of course, we have our radio network that Dick Palmer is handling the action tonight on radio, and then the part of the operational thing is you've got a women's game here tonight between Middle and Auburn, and those two teams have to have game day practices. Well, the men's team's playing here tomorrow night against Kennesaw State, and they still have to have a regular practice. So getting all of that scheduled throughout the day is a big part of it. And so that's why the guys are practicing right now. They tend to like to practice in the morning during Christmas break, but they're getting ready for the conference opener tomorrow night. But again, it's a big night for the Lady Raiders. They're looking for a bounce back, and this is the third of a big run of home games, Tennessee, Memphis, and Auburn back to back to back. That it's a really tough part of a schedule for a young team.
Talking with Chip Walters about all things Blue Raiders. And Chip, I got to ask you, man, you roll through the schedule right there. Women's basketball tonight versus Auburn. Got CUSA play beginning tomorrow versus Kennesaw. You got a game versus Cumberland, which will make more sense in a second, coming up on Sunday for the men. 3 different promotions, though, that are all catching my eye. I'm curious, what is Chip Walters' cup of tea? Is it the teddy bear toss at halftime tonight? Is it the photo with the Grinch tomorrow? Or are you more of a pajama day guy for the Sunday game?
I've thought about what would happen if I walked in here with some Christmas pajamas on Sunday. So, first of all, don't worry about that happening, because it will not happen. I would, I'm more of a photo with Santa guy. That'll be happening tonight. Also, kind of like the other one tonight, you've got the Murphy Center Christmas ornament that they'll be giving away tomorrow night. They'll be giving away Blue Raider stockings to be hung by the chimney with care. So that'll be the giveaway tomorrow, and so yeah, those are all pretty good. And for the kids on Saturday, 12. And speaking of the pajama day, if you come to the game on Saturday or Sunday against Cumberland and you're 12 and under and you have your pajamas on, you get in free, and you get free hot chocolate.
Now you're all that. Now you're talking my language. Forget the Grinch. I could even do without a photo with Santa, but you give me some free admission and hot chocolate. Now all of a sudden you got my interest there.
There you go.
Versus the Phoenix, that should be good. Chip, you kind of touched a little bit on the women, and obviously they got a big showdown. How does Coach Insel approach a game like this tonight? Because he wants to win every single game, but obviously you got the rigors of the conference right around the corner.
Well, in right now they're trying to get their team right for conference play, and that's a term that's an old Kermit Davis term. He goes, I got to get my team right, and that Kermit used to love to talk about that. But one couple of the things that Middle's women are working on right now is trying to get number one, every game you're getting all these freshmen who are playing, they're getting a game older every time they go out there, and they're getting that much more experienced, hopefully growing some bark on them, facing the Tennessees, the Memphises of the world, that kind of thing, and the Auburns tonight. And then, trying to cut down turnovers. So, being able to value the basketball, take good care of it, cut those turnovers down, quit and not give other teams easy baskets. I think they're going to, it'll end up serving them well going through this gauntlet that they're going through. But, sometimes the growing pains can be a little tough. And with a young group, you're looking for consistency, and that's hard with as many freshmen as they have. Although you look and you see that Blair Bogus, a freshman out of Waynesboro, she's a 3-time Conference USA Freshman of the Week. Macy Pfeiffer, a young lady out of Madison, Mississippi, she's the Conference USA Freshman of the Week this week after she had her first double-double. That's one thing you may do is you will probably lead the league this year in Freshman of the Week honors. And that's the good thing. The bad news is you're leading the league in Freshman of the Week honors. But it's part of the growth process and where they want to get this team. The women don't have a conference game until the 29th, or actually January 2nd. So they've got 2 or 3 more games. They've got a road trip to Wichita State coming up. So, they've got a lot of time in the lab still left here over the next couple of weeks to continue to get this team right. But, you try to do that in practice, but then, you get, games against, you had to go up to a really tough place to play at Southern Indiana this past weekend, and now you got Auburn coming in. So so there's no rest for the weary. You just have to, the freshmen just can't be freshmen all the time.
Chip, men's basketball kind of took a thumping to Belmont a little over a week ago, but 10 days off between that game and tomorrow night's conference opener against Kennesaw, like you mentioned. You're obviously at practice right now, like you said, but what can we expect out of the conference opener tomorrow against Kennesaw?
Well, you're going to see the preseason conference player of the year in Simeon Cottle for Kennesaw, and he was terrific as a freshman last year, and he's back as a sophomore, and he had he's averaging, was it 20 or 22 a game right now? So he's going to be one you've got to deal with. You're going to see a Kennesaw team that 10 games into the season, they're averaging 97 points a game. So go ahead, turn the shot clock off, and so Middle's got a really tough defensive assignment against this group tomorrow. Although when you look at their schedule, Middle's schedule has been statistically a much tougher schedule. When you look at having your 4 losses for Middle have all been to top 100 teams in the net rankings: Michigan, George Washington, McNeese State, and Belmont. And every game I see Michigan play, it makes our game with them look that much better, because they're just beating the brakes off people right now. And we went up there, and it was a 6-point game at halftime and an 8-point game, 5 or 7 minutes into the second half before their length and depth ended up controlling that basketball game. But Belmont had about an 8-minute stretch early in the second half that stretched out what was a 4-point game at halftime. And the thing that's about Belmont, and I was talking to Ronnie Bargatze this morning about it, is Belmont seems to always have great guards. They've got a terrific post player this year in Schwarnowski, and he is sneaky athletic. Probably not sneaky to the Belmont folks, but he doesn't necessarily look the part, but he is highly athletic and has some, Sports Center type plays and moves, and has an ability to get off the ground and not only rebound, but we saw him get the ball last week at the elbow, and he took one drop step, spun, never put the ball on the floor, and took off and dunked it from there. So it was a very, and really impressive. And right now they're 10-1. Their only loss was to Richmond. So they're going to be tough in the Missouri Valley, and they were expected to be. But now for Middle, you've got tomorrow night against Kennesaw. Then you've got Cumberland on Sunday, and then on December 29th, you play at Houston. So what has been a schedule fit for the 27 Yankees has will continue with again, player of the year in the conference, preseason player of the year tomorrow night, and then you've got Kelvin Sampson's Houston Cougars, probably one of the best defensive teams you're going to face, and just a fundamentally sound group, and that's the reason that the game with Kennesaw is being played tomorrow night, is because it was scheduled for December 29th, but there was an opportunity to play Kennesaw, or to play Houston in a pay game, and Kennesaw was good enough to make the change on the schedule, come up here now. So really the other part of it is whoever wins tomorrow will be in first place in the conference for about 2 weeks.
And there was some news out of football this morning. Derek Mason hired a new offensive coordinator and offensive line coach. What can you tell us about those additions?
Well, the Anthony Selfo is going to be the new offensive coordinator. He comes from southeastern Louisiana, and for the last 2 years, he's actually coached for his dad, who is the head coach there. But Anthony Selfo is kind of he's been around a little bit. Before he was at southeastern Louisiana, he was quarterback coach at Northwestern State there in Louisiana, started his coaching career at UTSA. He's a former player at Tulane, and he was a two-sport player. He played football and baseball at Tulane, and so he's he knows Conference USA. His team at Southeast Louisiana this year averaged 31 points a game, put up 40 plus numerous occasions. So he's got some, he's got the numbers that show that he's been really good at coaching quarterbacks and having productive offenses. The new offensive line coach is going to be Christopher Brown, who played his college football at Southern University in Louisiana, but last year was part of the coaching staff. He was assistant offensive line coach at Arkansas for Sam Pittman, and they were number 3 in the SEC in rushing last year, and in the top 30 in the country in rushing. So, he's got a good history of working with offensive linemen. He was at Alabama State for a couple of years. Prior to that, he was assistant offensive line coach at Iowa, part of their 2023 10-win season, in a year where they had 6 all Big Ten offensive linemen and on that Iowa squad.
Okay.
So he's originally from Cleveland, Ohio, and he's got the look of one of those just gritty offensive line guys, and he's got a good track record. He's been around good people. So those are 2 changes or 2 announcements that were made as far as hirings are concerned. You still got a wide receiver spot that's open. That one may be an elevation from within, but just don't know where that's going to end up yet. But Coach Mason moved pretty quickly here, and Anthony Selfo, that's you go look at his pedigree and track record. His dad is head coach there at Southeastern Louisiana. His uncle Chris Selfo has been on a lot of different college football staff. So looking forward to getting a chance to meet him and talk with him, and talk to him about what his vision is for this offense. Is they work through the transfer portal and bring in some players, and they just had a pretty successful signing day, and it'll just be interesting to see what they're able to do and what they're able to accomplish.
Chip, while we got you here, just what goes in, or what does the off season look like for all the players that know they are for sure returning? Kind of just walk us through that process.
Well, they will come back. They're getting to go. They're going to be gone. They're home for 2 or 3 weeks now, and they'll start trickling back in here after the first of the year. They'll get bored, and they'll come back. They'll come back and
come back early,
come back early, and they'll get in the weight room a little bit. And then I'm not sure that they can actually start winter workouts until school starts, which will be somewhere around January 15th, something like that. But they'll have the full winter workout program, and it's Jamie Blatnick, the strength and conditioning coach. They're getting into the point of the year where Jamie has his hands on the players a lot more than the actual coaching staff does until spring ball comes around. So this is development time. This is the time where if you're a player and you want to change your body, whether you need to gain some weight, whether you need to lose some weight, whether you need more flexibility, whether you need more explosion, all of that. This is the time of year where you work on that. And not only is Coach Blattner going to be working with you, you're going to have the opportunity and the access to the weight room and all of the things that are in the new Student Athlete Performance Center to help you achieve all those goals.
I was just getting ready to say, what's the latest on that? I mean, that's getting fully utilized. Probably trying to maybe some small tweaks just to get your processes. Make sure the folks, have their schedules. You're supposed to be here this time. You're supposed to be here that time. But by and large, seems like a good deal thus far.
Hey, the scheduling was a hard part before they opened up this building, because they were having to break up football into 4 different lift groups. Yeah. They can now have the entire football team in the new weight room. It's that big. And they can do everybody in one group, but you still have basketball men and women who are still here during the Christmas break that'll need to be in there. The athletic training room is open, and you've got all the recovery areas. You've got the red light therapy. You've got the hot and cold pools, all of that, and then like football locker room is of course in there, and the players lounge. That's still home away from home, and they encourage those guys when they're around. That's where they want them to be. That's where they want them to hang out, and that's where they want them to take advantage of everything that's in there.
And, to that point we made a moment ago about, joking at that time, but, kids coming back early. I mean, there's something to be said for, hey, it's better than just kind of sitting around, campus housing. This is kind of a place where you want to go get some stuff done.
Yeah, get out of the beanbag chair, put down the Cheetos, and get on over here. So so that's it's nice when you've got a place where they want to be, and really the SAPC. Those guys love hanging out over there, and I'm sure that there's certain rules about when they can come and go and all that kind of stuff. But they, it's a lot easier to get that word out now when everybody's got these in their pockets and they get all the text messages and all that. But that's what's going on with them. Obviously the transfer portal opens up on January 2nd. You see names of guys who have kind of put it out there that they're going to go in the portal. They don't actually do that until January 2nd. And then, as we like to say, the portal, while it does taketh away, it also giveth. And so in a lot of those conversations, I'm sure are happening, right now to, get their ducks in a row for when that 2-week window opens up January 2nd.
Calvin, what else you got for Chip before we let him get back to business at the Murphy Center there?
Chip, is there anything else that we need to know?
just to hey, they don't call him the best in the business for nothing.
Well played, Calvin. I love that.
Stocking stuffer packages for basketball for after this is a great Christmas gift. There's two packages, a women's package and a men's package. You get 4 games for $40, which that's about half price, either 4 men's games or 4 women's games. And whichever package you buy, you get a bonus game against Western Kentucky. If you buy the men's package, you get the women's game against Western for free. If you buy the women's package, you get the men's game against Western for free. So there's that. And the other note is they did put it out there that the Groundhog Day luncheon, or the Groundhog Luncheon for Blue Raider baseball, which has been going on about 50 years now, has been scheduled. Guess when it's scheduled for, guys?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say
Groundhog
Day.
Yep, February 2nd. That's a Monday, and you can go on GoBlueRaiders.com. There are tickets and tables are available, and you can go make that purchase as soon as you want to and get your folks ready.
Chip, my issues with crossover season in the spring on this show have been well documented, but I can always get behind the Groundhog Day luncheon, especially when it's on, its proper ceremonial date. So
that's correct.
Thank you for sharing that. And if nothing else, it could be as cold as it is outside right now, but the food and the menu alone is going to be worth making the trip over.
And that does not change. Ham hocks, white beans, tomato salad, green onions, chocolate cake, and vanilla ice cream.
Okay. Thank you for that.
I may have had it a time or two.
You've got some insider knowledge, and now thanks. My grocery bill just got a lot higher tonight, so I appreciate that.
All right.
Chip Walters, our good friend, the Blue Raider voice. Have fun in the Murphy Center for the rest of the afternoon, Chip, and best of luck. Hopefully the next time we see you, we'll be talking about 1-0 in conference play for the Blue Raider men tomorrow night.
Boy, that sure would be nice. So come on out. Murphy Center, 6:30. Conference basketball, Middle and Kennesaw tomorrow night. Lady Raiders and Auburn coming up 3 hours from right now.
Love it. Good stuff, Chip. Thank you as always. We'll see you soon, partner.
See you.
That is Chip Walters, the MTSU Blue Raider voice. Make sure you follow him on all of the socials at ChooseChip. Calvin and I are going to take a quick time out. I'm going to go rummage through the refrigerator, thanks to the Groundhog Day luncheon menu that was just provided to us by Mr. Walters. And we will step aside. But when we come back, we're going to dip into the grab bag. Got a lot of stuff. We got, as I mentioned at the start of the show, we got some people coming back to school. We got some people going to a new school. We got some people looking for schools. And we also got some big news out of the NFL. You're going to want to stick around for that, folks, as we'll come back after this break and fill you all in during the grab bag here on Main Street Sports Today, where we're presented by TOA of Columbia.
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
Nashville's Nutcracker, presented by Nashville Ballet, returns to TPAC November 29th through December 28th. This holiday season, audiences will journey with Clara and the Nutcracker Prince through Nashville's history and the land of sweets. Tickets on sale at NashvilleBallet.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Welcome back, gang, alongside Calvin White and our producer, Mark Rogers. Wade Neely saying good afternoon. You are watching Main Street Sports Today, presented each and every single afternoon by our friends at the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Coming up in just a matter of moments, right after this segment, as a matter of fact, we will get into Top 5 Tuesday. The top 5 things, we bet we could still do. And Calvin already has his list prepared. I'm having to make a few alterations because I just stood up to go back downstairs and, my body is, maybe giving me a few extra suggestions. I've reached the age, Calvin, where I don't know that waking up will be one of them, but you'll know what I'm talking about here before too long. You sleep on the wrong side of the bed and all of a sudden you feel like you've been run over by a truck. So we'll get to that coming up down the stretch. And yeah, Calvin's list should be a little different than mine as I'm closer to that benchmark there. Let's see. Where do we start, Calvin? We got a number of different things. I suppose we might as well kind of go rapid fire through some of these. Are you shocked at all when you see that a report has come out today that Arch Manning will come back to Texas next year? That's the news as reported by a bunch of different outlets, but I'm reading this from The Athletic.
If you would have told me before the season started that he was kind of going to come back for his senior year, I would have said yes, I would be surprised. But, just seeing the way that he's played this year, I wouldn't expect his draft stock to be too tremendously high this year. He started off playing not that great, and, he's gotten better as the season's gone along, but, I don't know if they've started doing mock drafts and that type of thing. But
there's always mock drafts.
I don't imagine Arch Manning is going to be too high on anybody's mock draft right now.
Yeah, I was not shocked by this, but I was totally in lockstep with you. Coming into the season, yeah. I mean, we were kind of making the joke, right, that the Titans had the number 1 pick last year, and some fans were wondering, man, maybe we should trade this pick and tank for Arch for this year. I mean, that was a real kind of thought that was going through, so not just Titans fans even, but some other franchises. And then, things did not work out the way that maybe perhaps a lot of folks would have thought. It feels like the Manning allure and kind of luster has worn off enough that now we can just let Arch be Arch. And it's going to be fun to watch him next year because it doesn't feel like there's this crazy amount of pressure. This guy was the overwhelming favorite to probably go number 1 in the draft, but also to maybe be the Heisman winner this year. Neither one of those happened, but it could set him up nicely coming back to Austin next season. So Arch is coming back to school again, as reported by a number of different outlets. It is portal season. We talked about a couple of big names, including DJ Lagway that was in the portal yesterday. Maybe not the biggest name, but this, if you read tea leaves or you're into reading tea leaves, maybe this makes sense. As Vanderbilt backup quarterback, yes, they do, believe it or not, have another quarterback on the roster besides Diego Pavia. But the sophomore, Jeremy St. Hilaire, has announced that he will transfer. That's according to 24/7 Sports. Again, the portal opens January 2nd, but St. Hilaire is a 6'4", 220-pound, formerly a 3-star prospect, originally from Montreal. But I found this nugget interesting, Calvin. Clark Lee's first commit in the 2024 class has kind of stuck it out. But when you are in the shadow of Pavia, and you're already kind of, unfortunately, in the shadow of a guy that's not even on campus yet, and 5-star superstar prospect Jared Curtis, not really shocked by this announcement today either.
No, he kind of saw the writing on the wall, I assumed. I don't see a world where Jared Curtis is not Vanderbilt's starting quarterback next year, unless Diego Pavia finds a way to, take it to court again and get a 7th year of eligibility. But, that's obviously not going to happen. But, Jared Curtis, I would assume is going to be Vanderbilt's starting quarterback next year. So kind of just saw the writing on the wall. And, hopefully he finds a home where he's able to play some football next year.
Okay, it's interesting that you say that, and this is probably a longer form discussion to be had down the road. You're buying though Curtis walks in step day one, because I have read, even on a CBS report, they were touting some potential destinations for Lagway. And not saying that Lagway himself would go to Vanderbilt, but LSU in particular and Vanderbilt were mentioned as possibles for a transfer quarterback to maybe be that proverbial bridge QB. And it makes sense in some regards, but you got a prospect like Curtis. The thought I would imagine he's not showing up to sit at any point, right?
Yeah. I would imagine Jared Curtis's whole, reason for transferring to Vanderbilt was, finding a place that he thought he could play right away. When he was originally committed to Georgia, everybody kind of assumed that he would have to, stick it out behind Gunnar Stockton for a year or two. But, if he wants to play right away, especially with Diego Pavia gone next year, Vanderbilt seemed like the place to go. And I don't think Clark Lee would have, sold him those false promises that he wasn't going to play if he wasn't going to. So I don't expect, Vanderbilt to, go after DJ Lagway just because, it seems like right now they've got belief in Jared Curtis to come in and be the starting quarterback. But, DJ Lagway, could end up, at a conference rival, I'm not going to say he's going to end up at Tennessee, but, could end up, at a place like that, another place in the SEC where he can, get some more playing time after Billy Napier was fired at Florida.
That was exactly one of the destinations or potential destinations that our guest Chris Lee mentioned on the show was Rocky Top. And I don't know, it's still kind of funny. It's such a business now, but deep down, there's still something that Vols fans, deep down, they're like, man, we don't want this guy. He's one of them. So time will tell on that. So some Vanderbilt quarterback talk, and I'm with you. You're right. I mean, Clark Lee, it almost feels like the way the situation played out with Curtis, assurances would have been made, is maybe the way to put it, I suppose. So maybe put a little dousing of the flames on Vanderbilt, maybe going to get a quarterback out of the portal. If they were to get in the portal, and ain't just Lagway, we got some interesting news yesterday. The Dylan Raiola, Nebraska era has officially come to an end, and the jokes immediately began to write themselves, Calvin, for a guy who mimics virtually everything, down to the number, down to the mannerisms. He is a walking rendition of Patrick Mahomes. Seems like Texas Tech has quickly put out the kibosh that they are not in the services of Dylan Raiola, robbing us before we can even really start fantasizing about it. So I'm not sure where he ends up, but it sounds like it ain't going to be at Texas Tech.
Yeah, that would have, taken the gimmick a little too far.
I saw somebody online say they should have, he would have demanded they unretire Mahomes' jersey, so that he could wear it. I mean, we're robbed of that.
Probably, but, before this year, I would have, I wouldn't expect anybody to go to Texas Tech to play football, but, NIL money has made them a contender immediately. And, Dylan Raiola is a good football player. So, no matter where he ends up, I would imagine he's still going to be a productive player. We just don't get the humor of seeing it in the number 15 for the Red Raiders.
Yeah, and this is going to be fascinating because I still kind of believe in the hype. This was a massive get for Nebraska a couple years ago, and there's been the flashes of brilliance, all the Mahomes jokes off to the side. But he hasn't developed offensively, and I kind of maybe chalk that up to the coaching staff at Nebraska. So if you put him in the right spot, the right offense, the right coordinator, the right QB whisperer, perhaps, I still believe there could be a little bit of magic that they could get out of this once highly, highly touted quarterback. But again, On3 reporting on Monday that Dylan Raiola is in the portal. Portal season is upon us. This is not the first, and it won't be the last segment that we have basically college football's version of free agency to discuss. Calvin, did we take in any of Monday Night Football last night?
We did not. That was I feel like that's the billionth time this year we've gotten two bad teams on Monday Night Football.
I did not watch a single second. Was out at Cheatham County last night, and I feel totally fine with my decision. Nothing about that game really jumped out to me to begin with. The Dolphins were technically still alive for the playoffs. They were in the hunt, proverbial graphic cue up on the screen there, but not really. The Steelers, meanwhile, felt like a game they should win. The only drama, I said it to Mo yesterday, the only drama of this game would be, would the Steelers blow it, because it was a game they were supposed to win. Well, they didn't. Not only did they not blow it, this was one of the rare Steelers games that it felt like they just cruised to victory. Took a 7-3 lead at halftime, which, if you saw the Dolphins offense, it sounds like that was insurmountable practically. And then things got a little crazy because the Steelers put up 2 touchdowns in the third, leading 21-3, leading 28-3 at this point. And the Dolphins kind of just lackadaisical, lack of intensity, I guess. So much so that Troy Aikman kind of called them out on it. Only with about 2 minutes left in the game, then they tried to implement a little hurry-up action. But I don't know, very odd. I'm glad to hear that you didn't catch any of it, because no one should have been subjected to that. My uncle is a diehard Steelers fan, and even he had to turn it off because it was that painful. So the Steelers do get the win. They still are in pretty good position in the AFC North race there with their rival Baltimore Ravens. Touched on this early in the show. We'll weave our way back into it at the end of the show. What do you make of the quote from Colts head coach Shane Steichen, Calvin? He says, quote, "We didn't bring Phillip Rivers here to sit on the bench." I mean, I get it, but at the same time, it sounds as if, we were banking and we're pinning our hopes and prayers on Rivers because, would you have been shocked if he'd even failed a physical, to join the team? I mean, this is such a wild story. And it kind of ended on Sunday with the Colts nearly pulling off one of the bigger upsets in the NFL this season. They were a 14-point underdog and almost won the game.
Yeah. Riley Leonard must be pretty hurt if they're out there rocking and rolling with 44-year-old Phillip Rivers. I imagine if Riley Leonard, if his injury wasn't significant, that they would have just, rolled out there with an emergency quarterback against Seattle last week and, just hoped for the best. But obviously Daniel Jones is out for the year, and Riley Leonard must be pretty hurt if they're out there rolling with Phillip Rivers. But, I don't think anybody expects Phillip Rivers to be the guy to, keep the Colts afloat. Even though he did it for a game last week, I don't think that's a thing that you can expect somebody that's been out of the game for 5 years to be able to do to, keep you afloat. And obviously they're nowhere near as good as they were when Daniel Jones was healthy and, when Jonathan Taylor was running really well behind that offensive line. The Colts have taken their lumps over the last couple of weeks, obviously dropping some games and with Daniel Jones hurt. But I guess we'll see what old man Phillip Rivers can do for the rest of the season for the Colts.
Man, it would have been wild. I mean, just wild because there was so much intrigue. I think there was some sicko intrigue. Some folks were tuning in, whether they admit it or not, because they were wanting to see a 44-year-old man get pounded into dust practically out there. But then there was, there is a little bit of an underdog element, which is kind of funny. Phillip Rivers in his career has never really struck me as any sort of underdog type character. But he finds himself in this spot. And then, lo and behold, nearly pulled it off. Again, at Seattle, they fall in that one 18-16. Losers of 4 straight. They've dropped 5 of their last 6. They've got the 49ers on Monday Night Football at home. If the schedule was flipped, maybe I give them a better shot of winning that game, right? I mean, going to Seattle seemed like the ultimate improbability, despite the fact they almost did it. But if you just said, all right, he opens up with the 49ers at home, okay, maybe. But it does not look good for the Colts. And yes, they absolutely are going to need to win out because, as Mo and I referenced yesterday, that is a loaded playoff field, and it is a loaded AFC South with the Jags sitting there at 10-4, Texans at 9-5, and the Colts at 8-6. Other news, Speaking of teams on death's door, and now one team, this one in particular, that is eliminated. The immediate questions become about any fallen dynasty is where do you go from here, right, Calvin? And with the Chiefs, there's so many moving parts. We talked about it, that they have $50 million in cap space that's going to have to be allotted and accounted for. They're over at the moment. The big immediate question, what's Travis Kelce going to do? Well, if you tuned in to the Monday Night Countdown pregame show last night ahead of that Steelers-Dolphins game, Kelce's brother was on the show, and he kind of summed it up. And he said, I'm curious too. In my opinion, to nail that decision, you have to step away and evaluate for a little bit, play these last 3 games, enjoy them with your teammates and coaches. The team's going to be different no matter what you do, or whether or not, you come back next year. So felt like we were having this discussion last year, right? At the end of the Super Bowl, Calvin. Is Travis going to come back? I'm not going to say shocked, but I was somewhat surprised that he did come back. He's still a productive, even long in the tooth as he is, he's still a productive tight end. But this year, nothing has gone right for the Chiefs. I will not be shocked if this is the last ride for Mr. Kelce.
Yeah, I feel like he maybe wanted to try and end things on a high note, maybe try and win another Super Bowl. But he's getting married next summer. He's in his late 30s. He's made plenty of money playing football. And Patrick Mahomes is gonna miss at least some of the early part of the season, I would expect. There's talk Andy Reid might retire. And the Chiefs, they've just got so many holes that they have to fill on that team to even think about getting back to what they once were over the last 4 or 5 years when they were just mowing through everybody and playing in Super Bowls. But I wouldn't be surprised either way. I would lean more thinking that he's going to retire than come back, just because he would be playing that early part of the year without Patrick Mahomes. He's obviously not the player that he once was, even though he's still a productive, tight end. He's just not playing to the level that he has been over the last couple of years. So I would expect him to retire, but I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back either.
I mean, he is a uber competitive guy. I mean, they all are, and tight ends in particular, which is the cousin of the offensive lineman. Those are some guys that they kind of crave that contact, but eventually, the body just wears out. But I'll be curious, and you make the great point there. I'm just now visualizing Kelce on the sidelines, and the moment Mahomes is carted off, whispering to somebody, "Yep, that's a wrap for me too," because I ain't doing it without you. So stay tuned. But at least brother Jason has said he didn't really offer any insight one way or the other, said he was curious. That will be one of the bigger storylines, obviously, of Kansas City's offseason. One of the hidden storylines, and this is kind of unfortunate news as we get ready to close out the grab bag here. One of the hidden storylines coming out of the Titans and their loss on the road 37-24 to the 49ers. It's one thing to go on the road and suffer a loss, but it's a whole more level of frustration when you go on the road and come back and find your house has been burglarized. And that's exactly what happened to Titans defensive tackle, the all-pro himself, Jeff Simmons. Talk about a swing of emotions. The team loses, but you have this crazy viral touchdown, kind of an up and down string of emotions there. But as Simmons returns, finds out that his house has been the scene of a crime, troubling end to say the least, on a day where he also got his 9th sack of the season. And I'm reading kind of saw some pictures on social media, but also this seems like part of that trend, Calvin. You remember we saw some folks in Cincinnati and some other NFL cities over the course of the year. Shedeur Sanders, famously not too long ago, houses getting robbed during games. And I'll just say this. You hear the phrase guts of a burglar. It takes a whole nother set of guts to rob a NFL player's house. In the off chance that they are around, which, I guess maybe you've done your homework and, they're at the stadium. I would take my chances with the police rather than I would take my chances with Big Jeff catching me busting down the doors, right?
Yeah. And, unfortunately, that's part of, the struggles of being a professional athlete. People know when you're not at home. So, I would assume that these people that burglarized his home knew that he was in San Francisco. That they tried to cut it a little bit close. I saw one report that said, they broke into his home Sunday night, when they were on the way back from San Francisco. But hopefully Big Jeff gets his stuff back, and they catch the people that broke into his home.
Yeah, we'll have an update more on that. But yeah, Big Jeff even posted some photos online, and it was a proper break-in. It did not look good. So hang in there, Big Jeff, and hopefully we'll get an update on this story from a criminal standpoint. Hopefully we'll be able to apprehend Big Jeff's assailant there, as it were. That's all the time we got, man. The grab bag, we got one or two items that unfortunately we're not going to be able to squeeze in today. We'll maybe hold them over for tomorrow's show when Calvin and David take the reins. But what that means, folks, is when we come back, it's time for the final segment on this Main Street Sports Today episode. It's time for Top 5 Tuesday. Calvin and I will break down the top 5 things. We just talked about Phillip Rivers. Old man Rivers playing football at 44. He's a grandpa. Calvin and I will give you the top 5 things we wish we could do, or we bet we could do, as a matter of fact, when we're in our 40s. So stick around for that. It should be fun, folks. Top 5 Tuesday, presented by Columbia Power and Water System, comes your way right after this.
When I think of Delta Dental now, it's really their core values. It's the volunteerism, it's the giving back.
Delta Dental gives us 10,000 toothbrushes. So twice a year, we have these children that are going home with food that may not have weekend food, and they're also getting a toothbrush.
The best partners are the ones that truly do impact the community together, and I don't think there's a better example of that than our partnership with Delta Dental.
Being in Tennessee, we wanted to try to keep it as local as possible, so we have an entire section of our menu that is just dedicated to local whiskeys like Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, of course, George Dickel, Nelson Brothers, Greenbrier Whiskey, and all of our taps are all local. From 2 o'clock until midnight, we've got food every day for you guys. A good handful of appetizers, some entrees, and a couple salads and things like that. My name is Ethan Kanata. Please come down and see us at the Pick Lobby Bar here at the Omni in Nashville.
The winning just got closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
Welcome back, folks. Battling through playing injured, if you will. Calvin White got maybe the same funk that I had. I'm on the other side of it, Calvin, so hopefully you'll be in good graces as well. But I appreciate you sticking with us today. All the way up to Top 5 Tuesday. Folks, it's time for our final segment. Every single Tuesday, we will bring you one of our favorites because if you are tired of buffering and slow internet speeds, then upgrade your life with Columbia Power and Water System Internet, where you can get lightning fast internet with speeds up to an incredible 1 gig, stream, game, and work seamlessly, all for just $70 a month. So if you're looking for local service and local support, visit cpws.com, or you can call 931-375-7777 and tell them your friends at Main Street Sports Today were the ones that sent you. All right, Calvin, we've talked about it a couple of times throughout the course of the show. Phillip Rivers inspired us all, inspired a nation of dad bods everywhere to, look at their significant others, look at their kids on the couch while they're watching Rivers out there and saying, I bet I could do that. And that kind of played out. That was kind of the genesis for our Top 5 Tuesday category. You're obviously a little further removed from this benchmark here. Let's just say advanced age. How about that? For me, at least, because I'm only a year away from this 40 mark here. But the top 5 things we bet we could still do at 40. I'll let you start us off.
I started with, playing golf. That's a thing that, doesn't put too much wear and tear on the body. Even now at the ripe age of 23, don't have to, put too much wear and tear when you get out there and hit the links. So hopefully when I get to 40, I don't act like my dad was and act like my body's just broken in half, and I'm still able to get out there and do that.
I think you're onto something there. And I tell you what, having set up the age difference between us here, viewers and listeners will be able to tell kind of where you're going and where I'm going, which will make sense because I'm going the dad on the couch saying, I bet you I could throw it. I'm going Uncle Rico, right? I could throw a football over them mountains. My number one I bet I could still do that. Mine would be play pickup basketball because I've got friends who were small college and great high school basketball players, and they have suffered injuries in their 30s, let alone in their 40s. But yeah, I could go out there and play pickup basketball. I am never setting foot on a pickup court as long as I live out of fear of injury. So I bet I could do that. Wink, wink.
Yeah, and my next one was kind of along the same lines. It's slow pitch softball. It's not. I'm not out there playing in leagues every week, during the spring, but I've always been a good player off the bench. If one of my friends needs a backup player to come in and play. So hopefully I have enough, energy and strength still at 40 to get out there and do that if need be.
I got faith in you, and I think you'll still be good. My next one, there's a couple good ones here. As I've lost my train of thought here because I'll tell you what. I mentioned it earlier, but yeah, I could. This will resonate with Calvin and producer Mark Rogers here because I tell myself this tale all the time, and last night was one of them. Yeah, I bet I could stay up, till 1, 2 a.m. Maybe even if I get real crazy, 3 a.m. I'll be fine the next morning. It won't be a big thing at all. And then that alarm clock goes off at 7, 8, whatever time it is, and you feel like death reincarnated. So yeah, I bet I could stay up late one more time and hang out, but it never works out that way when you get older, Calvin.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's a skill that I think all people that are still, around my age range possess. David and I went to Blaine's housewarming party a couple weeks ago, and Blaine's wife was telling us about how Blaine goes to bed at like 2 a.m. during football season. He's back up at like 7:30. I don't know how he does that. He's a psychopath and a robot. But my next option, it was pickup basketball. I put it a little lower on the list because that's a thing where you're out there, playing a contact sport, in your middle age. You talked about not having fear of injury, but I'm not out there. I'll still go play, but I'm not going to say I'm not going to be not scared about potentially blowing my ACL out at 40 years old.
Don't like it. Stay off them courts, folks. I'm gonna roll through these next couple quick. I got one for you. I bet I could eat that Taco Bell and not have problems with my intestines the next 48 hours. I bet I could still do that like I did in my 20s. Never works out that way, Calvin. Enjoy it while you got it.
Yeah, and we kind of had similar answers here. I would say you can't eat as much as you do now when you get older. A lot of people around my age, you look at that whole pizza and you're like, yeah, I can attack that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get later on, you're maybe grabbing a slice or two. So I would say you don't eat as much as you do when you get older.
I'm with you there. Up next for me, this is the ultimate old man move, and we might have to finish at 4, but I bet I could, I don't need GPS. I remember how to get there. I can just freestyle it. An hour later, you're completely sidetracked. So, hey, you didn't get top 5, but, that's part of getting old. I won't tell you that part either. Your memory and time management starts going to waste. So that is all the time we got, folks. Calvin and David are back on the show tomorrow. I'll rejoin you guys on Friday with Mo. Have a great rest of your Tuesday night. We'll see you next time here on Main Street's